lights off now. We have 2 meetings.
Yeah, I wouldn't let it go.
Well,
I would not.
we have to look.
Back on it, or if you don't have to 45 days, it's deemed accepted on the 45th day. I'm just saying, but yeah. Yes.
Have somebody lined up. That's fine. Okay. Grace, are you ready? Mr. Kleinpeter, are you ready? All right, looks like it's pretty bare bones tonight. Good evening, everyone. At this time, I would like to call this August 16th, 2022 Borough Council meeting to order. Would you please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, would you please call a roll?
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Sykes?
Here.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Here.
Mr. Reitinger?
Here.
Ms. Lloyd? Mr. Siskovic? Mr. Stromer?
Mayor Curry as well. At this time, I'd like to report on our last executive session we held. We discussed matters of litigation, personnel, and real estate. No action was taken. At this time, do I have public comment on agenda items? Mr. Still, good evening.
Jack Still, resident. What's the issue with the M&H A signs?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What's the issue with the M&H Railroad A signs up at Rite Aid and J&J's? It's in the agenda.
Won't we be hearing from M&H?
You say it's on the agenda?
It's in the manager's report.
Oh, it's in the report.
It's in Ken's report, not on the agenda.
Oops,
Nice.
poor choice of words.
We'll be learning more about it during the manager's report.
All right. Also in the, not the agenda, the packet, there was a peer-to-peer for police. Is that going to be available for all employees?
I can address that when I
Okay.
Okay.
presentation.
And also somewhere it mentioned 14 feet for electric clearance. Is that correct?
That's correct. I didn't hear the.
14 foot for clearances, electric.
I don't know what he's even
Well, it's in the packet.
talking for.
This is for what's on the agenda. Just what's listed on the agenda.
Well, those things are in the agenda, kind of. No.
The agenda's of 12 items on there. Action items.
Well, so my comments were about the manager's report. How's that? That's on the agenda.
Do you have something in your report, Mr. Kleinpeter?
We're going to report on them, and then you have general comment at the end, where you can ask those questions after you hear the discussion. These things in the report are for discussion and information to council.
Jumping ahead of us.
More will be revealed then.
Well, I'd rather be.
14 foot. That'll,
All right,
that
thank-
in anyone's report.
Any other public comment on agenda items? Moving on. Agenda item number 1.
Do I have a motion to approve council meeting minutes for the August 3rd, 2022 meeting as submitted?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Willenbecker, second by Councilor Seitz. Is there any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 2.
Do I have a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the accounts payable list dated August 11th, 2022 for the period of July 29th, 2022 through August 11th, 2022, and to ratify approval of such bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to take required actions to make those payments?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Willenbecker, second by Councilor Miller. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 3.
Agenda item number 3 is ordinance 2022-1395. Do I have a motion to?
Number 3 is Costics.
Oh, they called and they're not coming tonight. They'll be coming to the next meeting, so.
We'll table agenda item number 3, sorry.
Sorry.
No, that's my fault. Agenda item number 4, ordinance 2022-1395, which is the property maintenance code.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-1395, updating the property maintenance code to adopt the International Property Maintenance Code 2018 edition as the property maintenance code of the borough?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Willenbecker, second by Councilor Miller. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5.
Okay, that's the resignation. Do I have a motion to accept part-time officer Scott Tantlinger's letter of resignation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Seitz, second by Councilor Willenbecker. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Did not know he was doing that. Agenda item number 6.
Manager's report. Information item number 1 there is about the M&H Railroad, which Mr. Still asked about. I had received some information that they might be attending the meeting, and in fact, I see they are here. They want to make a proposal about street signage to council and about Huffer Park. Sir, if you would.
Good evening. My name is Michael Graycar. I work at the M&H Railroad. Oh, that doesn't sound too good, does
You
it?
can just talk normal.
Talk normal? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, first of all, we had the signs out at J&J Pizza and Rite Aid. They've been there for at least the 11 years that I've been coming here. Recently, you have requested that we remove them, which I did. But we do have a lot of problems with people finding us. You think this day in GPS, on our phones and everything, that you wouldn't have this problem, but just the other day, I had people calling me. They're all the way up at the airport. They're like, we came down from the Loves, and somehow we ended up here. Can you tell us how to get back? And I had to try to explain to them to come back. Like I said, I don't understand how people are getting lost. I do know one of the problems is they like to put in Middletown train station, which obviously is going to take them to the Amtrak. So we do have problems. We do bring a lot of people into the area. Our count was about 8,000 to 9,000 passengers in the past on average we bring in. And we usually recommend people to come and eat lunch, and we do get a lot of charters. So we do try to send people to businesses to try to support local businesses. So it helps us. My request with the signs, the one that's there at J&J now is a little on the small side. Most people don't even see it. As a matter of fact, I didn't see it for years, and I was the one that would, at the end of our season, right before Christmas, I would take the signs down since 2011 for the couple months that we didn't run. And I never even noticed that sign until probably 8 months ago. I'm like, I never even noticed that sign was there. How long has it been there? And they said, it's been there for a while. But, you know, I ask people all the time, did you see that sign? No. So my request is, well, first of all, there's no Race Street sign. I've never seen Race Street. That is missing. It looks like somebody may have stolen it. So that my first request is to have a Race Street sign replaced there, so people at least know that's Race Street. And the only request we have is maybe a slightly larger, not by much, just a little bit larger, where that sign that's there, that replace it maybe a brighter color with just an arrow that says 6 blocks. You know, it doesn't have to be much larger.
What intersection?
That would be at the J&J, which is Race and Main Street.
Okay.
And since most of our people seem to come down Vine Street, I would like to also request possible a sign right at Race Street, similar to the M&H one that's there at J&J, and just says 1 block. And that would be permanently mounted like a street sign, because you do have street signs there too. I don't see how it would obstruct any views. It wouldn't be obtrusive, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So there are just some thoughts with the signage, because like I said, it does help people.
I'm sorry, is the borough responsible for directional signs to businesses?
We're not.
I didn't think so.
Okay, well, we're not exactly asking you to pay for them. Like I said, we would get them made, you know, like I said, we're asking for, you know, the borough to approve a sign, maybe, like I said, we just would like something a little larger that's a little easier to see. That's all we're asking for than what's there.
There's currently what he's referring to, there's currently, I believe, a sign on a street sign post that says MH Trail. It kind of looks like a street sign. I don't know.
Right down here at Brown.
I don't know where it is. It's
Right at J&J, it's on J&J's.
Well, but I believe there is a sign that says M&H down on Brown.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is one here. But most of our people come in
Oh,
from Vine Street.
My question is not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
does the borough have an application process for businesses to fill out requesting signage on borough-owned roads, not state roads, not a PennDOT road?
No.
Do we have, we should have we absolutely should have some sort of permit application request. I mean, I see small airports, hold on, I'm not, I see, on municipal roads, like Regal Airport, as you're approaching, they have on a road sign, it says a little airport symbol. This is not uncommon. Municipalities do this all over the place to point out airports, railroads.
but those are services, but not businesses. I just think there's a
Airport,
distinction.
Regal is a privately owned airport. Regal Aviation's a privately owned airport. I just know approaching that, I know because I fly out of there, approaching that intersection, I don't know what the intersection is, there's just a little, it's like a little white and has an airplane in it and it points this way. I mean, I've seen it before. But we should have some sort of,
It bears some discussion because I don't know that we want to start, every time a business wants a sign made, they can make a sign and then we post it on I just think I don't know how long those signs have been up. You know, judging from what you're saying, who knows how long? You yourself didn't even notice them for the longest time, so.
Like I said,
The
that one
idea
is
of starting businesses generating signs that we put up just bears some more conversation.
you're governed under Department of Transportation.
Yeah, ICC, yeah. No, PUC, sorry. Yeah, PUC.
So they recognize you as a transportation, so you can't just operate as a private business and do, make up your own rules. You're following
Yeah, we have to follow rules, yeah.
under transportation.
Yeah, and I guess what else makes it difficult too, we're kind of hidden. We're not like on the main drag. And like I said, what makes it also more difficult is because of the Amtrak station here. People tend to go to the Amtrak station looking for us. So it does create a problem for people trying to
I can
find
see
us.
the problem, but just imagine now all of a sudden Alfred's comes to us and said, we'd like some signage at the square. pointing downtown so people know where Alfred's is. You know, it's not on Main Street, it's a little hard to find. So you can see how it bears some more conversation.
But that is at least down in, yeah, I understand.
No, and
You know, we're just
Yeah.
requesting, you know.
And I actually
Talking about-
agree with Councilor Willenbecker on that, you know, like putting signs for maybe restaurants or hair salons.
Yeah, it could get out of hand, I understand that.
No, it would get out of
Oh,
hand.
yeah.
Yeah,
But you have that niche where you do fall under, you know, transportation. It's,
But he's asking us to do it as a business. What he's concerned about is his customers can't find him. So the request feels like it's coming from a business, not a mode of transportation.
but we put,
I'm not trying,
yeah, I understand.
you know, we just have to think these things through.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, we put, the new train station signs we put up around town. You know,
Yeah, but I see what she's saying. She is saying that's more, you know, of a federal system.
Yeah.
We're more of a business. And like she said, so I understand that. That does make sense. You know, it says.
I mean, but we realize you are a draw. I mean, that's a very wonderful thing that
Yeah.
people come to town.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you do have a distinction between tourist attractions, like the Civil War Museum, like.
Yeah, I was
the
gonna
signs,
mention that, yeah.
versus regular businesses. So,
Uh-huh.
you know, there are times, like, you know, if you have a museum, if you have a tourist attraction where you do have people coming in from,
I see what you're
you
saying.
know, so if you have 9,000 people, tourists coming in, and it's a hidden attraction, you know, sometimes you'll do those
Right, right. Good
Yes.
point.
So,
attraction signs.
Good
Like I said,
point.
I just request, you know, if you could talk it over, you
Yeah.
know, it's something to think about.
It's-
you sparked this discussion.
Yeah,
Let me
it's a
put
good
it to you
point.
like that. And we're missing a lot of heads tonight. I'm sure there's a lot more, people that are counselors that would like to chime in and
Yeah.
Sure.
and bring some good creative ideas to the table. So you have sparked a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's for sure.
And I know we're limited on time. Just to mention Hoffer Park there, they have unfortunately, we're having a major problem, especially since the fair this year. They came and cut all the brush back. So now they opened it wide open, and everybody, it seems to be walking across the tracks, and they'll walk right in front of the train. My fear is we're going to run somebody over, especially a child, because the kids love to play chicken with the train. I mean, we're running, 10 miles an hour is about the maximum we do. And it's a train, you can't really stop. And when they run right in front of you, and it's wide open, and then they laugh at you, and I stop when I can and try to talk to them. I try to be nice. And explain to them, it is a safety hazard. What if you trip and fall? I can't stop. I don't want to run anybody. I don't want to hurt
Right.
anybody. But that's my biggest fear for me, because I have to live with that if I do kill somebody, or even injure a child or a person for that matter. But at the same time, I know also what's going to happen this day and age. We're going to get sued, and you're going to get sued too, because they're going to say, hey, it was negligence. You're supposed to be protecting your citizens, your public. I grew up near King of Prussia, Philadelphia area, and I watched it happen. So I know it happens, not with a railroad, but other things that we had done growing up. And next thing you know, somebody's suing because they got, got injured or...
What's your right of way from your tracks?
It depends. It varies. Usually it's about 25 feet on each side.
So within that 25-foot window, what are you proposing?
Just somewhere along, just to keep them from coming out of the park.
What are you proposing? Are you proposing a fence or a
Yeah,
barrier
I would like to
structure?
propose a fence to
So-
be added, and we would pay a portion of that if we could,
I mean, if it's in
We're
your
willing to.
25-feet window, wouldn't you, the business owner, just, if you want to put a fence up, put a
Well,
fence
we really
up?
can't afford, the fence is very expensive, especially one, because apparently somebody had put one up years ago, and obviously they cut it with probably a pair of wire cutters. If you look in the weeds, there is a fence, and I was told it was there at one time, the whole way, but they cut that. So we'd have to put something like a chain link or something. And
Yeah, the-
actually, we don't own quite as much on that side, as a matter of fact. How much do we own on that side? 20 feet from the center down at the Huffer Park? Okay, he's saying we own 20 feet from the center of the track. So that puts it right at the edge, and they're cutting right up to that. Like I said, and now it looks like a field and a walkway, and they love to cross right there at Univar. That's where we had the biggest problem. Like I said, it's a safety hazard. and
Well, I mean, if
eventually
you're
we are-
recognizing that you have a safety hazard and you have 25 foot of real estate, you should be investigating and reaching out to fence companies and taking care of that.
But at the same time, like I said though, the attraction is the park. You know what I'm saying? The people are going to the park, they're playing, they're on the basketball courts, you're attracting them. I had cut trees down to help block the paths. There was little trails that they had because it was all grown up. But then when the craft festival came in the beginning of June, the week before that, they came and cut all that brush down and opened it wide open. Took the trees away that I had cut down to block the path, and now since they've done that, it's gone up 50%, the amount of traffic, of foot traffic walking across there now. And they're
So
just going
who
to
cut
the park.
that down?
Whoever you guys had,
So is Public Works on your property clearing out your brush?
I think they came over, I'd have to go measure for 100%, but yeah, they came right up. I don't know why they came up that far. If they would have left it alone, we wouldn't have, I don't think we would have had a problem. Because like I said, I put trees across there so they couldn't come through those paths.
Mr. Miller, just please make mental note that they have a 25-foot right away from the center of their tracks, and let's not.
20
I'm sorry, thank you. 20 foot
20
from the
foot,
center of their
okay.
track. So let's not encroach on that. And if they put any barriers or any brush or trees up in that space, let that be.
The trees were removed because, someone just cuts a tree down and lets it lay there, we're going to get it out, because we don't know exactly where our property line is either.
Well, it's okay.
I'm not sure cutting a tree down is a problem.
Now we know. I mean, now we know. Let's just not encroach on the 20-foot right away space.
Past that, I believe we're on our own property, but I will check it.
No, it's fine. No worries. Just
Like I said, yeah, that's
For
the problem.
future.
They opened it right up
for
to.
future reference. But if you feel that you have a serious issue on your property, you should, I have a pool in my yard.
Yeah, I hear you.
I put a fence around it.
But technically, they can't be on railroad property. And I did talk to the police officers. I know they're busy, so I don't want to bother them every time. Even though he did say, call me. Just call 911, say you got people on the tracks, I'll go give them a ticket.
Do you
But
have
guys-
signs? Do you have signage
We
up there?
put them up and they tear them down. Like I said, if I put a metal fence up, like that was there, they're just gonna cut it. They have no respect. I put signs up today, tomorrow they'll be gone. And everybody, like I said, they think it's a walking path, they think it should, it's part of the park. Like I said, I try to talk to people nicely and ask them nicely, please don't cross the tracks here. It's too unsafe. And they just laugh at you. And now they're getting smart. They're
well.
getting to be really smart, Alex. And
That's this generation.
I talked to a kid the other day, and he went and got everybody in the park, and they all decided to go stand on the tracks. And it's like, what do I do?
Well,
And that's when you call the
What's that?
police.
Well, I went and talked to them. Yeah, like I said, I know they're busy. I've had to call them with four-wheeler problems, and they're just too busy. You know what I mean? They got enough things to worry about.
I'm sorry, have you called? Yes or no?
I have not. I have called for other issues.
Why don't you
but
try
not
and-
the park.
yeah.
Well, like I said, I haven't, since I've talked to the officer
Yeah,
about it, I haven't had any incidents
Good.
that were worth calling.
Yeah.
I've seen them when we cleared. I'm not as worried about that. It's when we're right there switching. and
no,
they
we
decide-
appreciate the sensitivity that the police sometimes get busy, but they always welcome and want to hear from a
Okay, I
resident
just
who has a
didn't
call.
want to overwhelm the 911 system for
So,
something like that. That's, like I said,
yeah,
especially with what's going on in the world today,
no, we appreciate it.
yeah.
All right.
Thanks for bringing that to our
Thanks.
attention.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Klein, your agenda or your report?
Yes, staff, item number 2 there, we talk about staff recommended some changes to the street sidewalk ordinance. We talked about revising the coasting on sidewalks to coincide with Vehicle Code Title 75, which does not prohibit a bicyclist from using the sidewalk, but requires a cyclist to yield to pedestrians. The other recommendation was that we completely remove reference to the ADA ramps. In that, and if council agrees with those changes, the ordinance would need to be re-advertised. So that is in your packet. If you agree with those changes, they're highlighted. I think there are red lines in there that shows what we changed.
Yeah,
You want to put it on the agenda for next meeting to advertise, or?
Mr. Diamond, you feel comfortable with the,
Yes.
does everybody go with putting it on the agenda for next meeting?
Now, let me just ask about this Title 75. They can coast on it, but they can't, more or less, say drag race on it? I mean, is there a limit to what a bicycle can do on the sidewalk? Because we have a group of kids that are really dangerous if there's people walking on that sidewalk up there. And they're far old enough to be on the street.
Right.
So
Well, they have to yield, so if they're not.
Okay, well, they're not
If
yielding.
they're chasing people off, then
Okay,
you may have to bring the police out to.
okay.
Well, where I really think the rubber meets the road is,
Good luck.
like, I sit on my street, and I watch, when I'm sitting on my porch, I see young teenagers on their bikes, they're on the street all day. But when I'm out with my 3-year-old and he's on his little tricycle, we're not on the street, we're on the sidewalk. So I think a lot of that bike traffic is really on the street to begin with. We're, at least in my mind, I'm thinking more of that, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, 3-year-olds
I agree that.
on sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm just saying, over the last 4 to 6 weeks, we have had a lot of teenagers through adults on the sidewalk, on their bikes, and they're kind of going a little fast considering there's people walking.
Yeah, maybe it's just different parts of town. I just don't.
Exactly.
As you recall, the current ordinance doesn't allow bicycles on the sidewalks at all.
That's what I was gonna say, it's already that restricted, so if you have a
Already
problem,
restricted.
it's.
And, being that it doesn't allow it at all, police generally don't enforce that unless they get calls about problems. And they'll go by and look and see if they see the older kids on, and they'll probably tell them just to get off. But generally, I don't think there's a real long history of finding people, even older people, for being on sidewalks. However, but the option is still there under the current ordinance. But we tried this ordinance prior, and it was stopped because of this
Right.
posting thing. So we thought the compromise would be just, let's mirror Title 75, like on the state code for like state roadways. It doesn't prohibit you from being on a sidewalk, but it does say you must yield to the test.
Okay,
So if they're not going to yield, we have no enforcement teeth anymore with this new revision. Other than if they run somebody over, they're going to be liable, I'm sure. But, the police will, investigate and they'll be liable.
okay.
Does everybody go with it?
Item number 3 there, we were looking at, we made some revisions to the electric permit application. That's what that's referencing. Report item number 4, just reminding everybody we'll be hosting the CAPCOG managers meeting now on September 28th. That was moved from August 9th due to conflict with some speakers, so we'll be having it here on September 28th.
Excellent.
And that's all I have on my report.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kleinpeter in his report? Excellent. Agenda item number 7, codes.
Okay, your code report is in the packet. Anybody have all informational stuff? Anybody have any questions?
Excellent. Oh,
May I ask a quick question? Mr. Kleinpeter, what are the ideas around blighted properties being a priority? Just more attention to,
More attention to those things rather than some of the other minor things.
minor things. That's great news.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really
that's
great.
very
Thank you very
Some of
much.
the, another priority would be, you see in there like pools. The last bullet point there
Right.
says they found approximately 10 above-ground pools without permits. So people are going to, apparently you go to some of these places like Walmart now and you can get pools that would blow up that are like 4 foot deep. And, or 3 feet deep, 4 feet deep, and they're putting these pools within the within 10 feet of the property line, which is a zoning violation, or they're not putting the security
Fencing,
fence
yeah,
around them.
yeah.
So that's becoming more and more of an issue this
Okay.
summer than before. Apparently, maybe there's more of these things more readily available. Before, they used to be kiddie pools, but now they're like bigger kid poles that you can buy blow up, so it's been an issue.
Well, thank codes and zoning for getting a little bit out of the weeds,
Sure.
both figuratively and literally.
In the 10 foot of the property line, is that the pool structure? I never heard that before.
There's a setback for poles, yeah, I don't know what it is, it might be, I think they said 10 feet, but.
And that's the structure of the pool? Or not like the pool equipment?
Now it's in the property line.
Yeah.
Unless they change the code.
Oh, interesting, okay. Agenda item number 8, finance report.
I only have a few items. One is an informational, we are beginning the Tyler conversion. So there's going to be steps to this conversion, which will be completed on September 8th, which is when we're going to be going live. We have requested, because we're going to have to do a number of hours of training prior to the live conversion. So on August 30th, we're going to have to close the office from 10 o'clock to 12:30 to accommodate that training.
Okay.
The second is I'm requesting approval at the next business meeting, September 6th, to approve the MMO calculation for 2023. And the second request I'm asking to be added to the September 6th council meeting for approval is the transfer from the water sewer administrative cash account into the pool cash to cover legal expenses in the amount of $700,000.
Okay.
Do we have any questions on anything else?
No? Excellent,
Thank you, Sally.
Agenda item number 9, Director Wright.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The PD staffing update, that's pretty much the same as it was before. We got background checks proceeding, and 2 applicants are in the academy until December, and won't graduate until December. We're hoping we're going to be able to hire them at that point. We're preparing to administer our own test if necessary to fill some vacancies. We're working on that now, looking for a location. I requested that the Civil Service Commission extend the sergeant's eligibility list for 1 year. We currently had a list that expires in a couple days, or this week or last week, due to our staffing levels, and I'm not really prepared to make a recommendation on that. I thought it would be easier to extend the list and then have everybody go through the list again. Everybody who's on the list is still currently employed, and probably will be for the next year.
Okay.
The Lexipol issue, we're waiting on some legal issues, I think, concerning that. The Axon body-worn camera quote has expired. You recall that quote was for approximately $484,000 over the course of 10 years, and was a very comprehensive quote that involved replacing the in-car camera systems we already have. It involved body-worn cameras, and it involved purchasing tasers, and on all 3 of those, it had a replacement schedule over the course of 10 years. Very comprehensive and very involved, but also very expensive. I believe it's probably a good thing that that quote expired, and because I think we can do better than that.
Good news.
I've gotten an initial quote for some body-worn cameras that are made by the same manufacturer that does our in-car camera system. And we're looking at approximately $25,000 to purchase them, and probably about $5,000 or $6,000 a year for cloud storage. Now, keep in mind, the in-car cameras and the tasers will require replacement over the course of 10 years. But I don't believe it's going to come even close to the level of $484,000. So I think our goal is to get body-worn cameras. I think that's important. And then over the course of the next several years, we can look into the idea of scheduling replacements of the existing systems we have in place. So I think that's the way we should go. And I should be able to have some numbers available for my budget
Wonderful.
for next year.
Excellent. That's great news.
That's terrific.
And we're working on that policy. So, and if there are some grants out there available through PCCD for body-worn cameras, and they usually They might be in the 50% match area, but at the, even if, I don't know if there's any available now, but even if they aren't available, I think at $25,000 just to get them on board and into the departments, a much better deal than
Right.
$484,000 over 10 years. I have on here traffic complaints and evaluation of Wharton Street area and PSU campus. I've gotten a lot of phone calls and references from people concerning school starting up again next year, and we're going to have some additional problems on Spring Street and Wharton Street, specifically where the campus exits into the residential area there. And I've gone up and done some of my own evaluations, but I have yet to see full-scale exodus from the campus at closing time, so to speak.
Right.
Since I've been here, I've seen several traffic studies concerning other areas around the borough. I've also talked to some people who work for Penn State, and they're projecting and don't quote me on this, they would have better numbers, but a 30 or 40% increase in students over the next 5 or 10 years. So that's a lot of kids, and that's a lot of cars coming out of Penn State into a residential area of our borough. And I think that's something we should evaluate potentially, whether we partner with Penn State, whether we do it ourselves, or whether we do something as simple as make that street one way into the campus.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and they all use the traffic control device at the southern end of the campus
That's right.
onto a commercial roadway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not prepared to say that's my opinion. I'm just saying that's my simplest answer, but
Right.
that would certainly impact them also. So I just know, I haven't been here very long, and that's one of the biggest complaints I've heard is traffic exiting from the campus and how it impacts that neighborhood. So I think it's something we need to look at a little bit more so than having an officer do some stop sign enforcement up there. So I don't know what the answer is. Something maybe we can talk about later, something we can talk to the people that do these evaluations for, something, do we need to reach out to Penn State about this? I don't know.
Dan, Dr. Mason is going to be here in October to give a presentation on their Dauphin County Gaming Grant for Economic Development out there on the campus. I think we're going to hear a little bit about their plans at that meeting in October.
It's a good idea.
So that might be a good time where we can, talk about our issue and with the plans when he's here.
And by October too, I might be able to have a little better idea of what's going on too, and I can spend some time. And again, it's human nature to take the shortest route to get to where you got to go. I fully understand people leaving
Sure.
and taking the short way out because they don't want to drive down to the traffic control device to get out. So,
And as Mr. Kleinpeter was saying, with Dr. Mason coming here, over the years on a somewhat regular basis, when Dr. Mason is having a special event at the campus, he often extends an invitation to Borough Council to attend. His executive assistant is in communication with us regularly on that. So I think there's certainly a door open to ask how to get at a table for that conversation.
okay.
Yeah.
I have update on some ordinances. The dog ordinance, the dog law ordinance was something that came by my desk a little while back.
What, 3 years ago?
Well, I think it was finally codified and completed, and there's some things in here that we're going to try to do that are in the ordinance that currently aren't being done. When dogs are turned into the police station and we kennel them, there's supposed to be a kennel fee levied against whoever owns the dog, and there's supposed to be a request for proof of vaccination and proof of licensing. And whether or not citations are issued as a result of those, I think it's something we need to do to be a little bit more responsible. If we have dogs that are running around our borough, and again, some dogs get out, I fully understand that. I'm not a dog owner, but I fully understand dogs can get away. This shouldn't be punitive, but if we're taking dogs in that are running around, if they're returned to their owner, we should ensure that they're vaccinated and properly licensed. So we're going to develop a procedure within the department to make sure that those things are taken care of.
Excellent.
Good,
So,
good.
the police peer program, we currently have a police peer program here at Middletown Borough. It was managed by our EAP provider, and that's the Employee Assistance Program provider. So it's a partner to the Employee Assistance Program. So every employee for the borough is covered by the Employee Assistance Program. The police peer program is specifically geared towards law enforcement, and if any type of traumatic event would occur involving law enforcement and involving how officers deal with the job or the stresses of the job, whether it's alcohol use or whether it's anything like that. So we have 3 trained officers within the department. I'm not planning on training anymore. The peer program has some fees associated with maintaining their program. It's something that's already in place. It's something that was budgeted in previous years and paid for out of the training line item within my budget. The new manager of the program is Ms. Ziddy and Sullivan. Is that how you say that?
Mm-hmm.
So we just have a new notice and a new contract to sign, which will be a part of next year's budget.
I don't think so.
So, and it's a county-wide program, so officers from other departments would assist like if an officer had a deadly force type situation in another department, various officers from around the county could go and participate and debrief and help officers out who were having any kind of issues with that. So, and they're all volunteers and they all take it pretty seriously. Dauphin County co-responders, I think there was a presentation a couple years ago about the co-responder program. I just wanted to let you know that I looked into the accessibility of it again, if we wanted to revisit it, and currently there is no availability for us to be involved in it at this particular time. If the county changes, there's already co-responders assigned to the police departments, and it would, there's no availability at this time, so it's not really worth discussing. If it becomes available again in the future, I'll certainly sit down and talk to you about it. That's pretty much all I got.
Excellent. That was very thorough. Do you have anybody have any questions for Director Ray?
That trailer was moved, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 10. Mr. Willsbach.
Couple points of interest. Both parks, Hoffer Park and Spruce Street Park, are well underway with the renovations. We make our daily trips out there. Everything's going fine so far. No issues to report on that. Any questions on the parks? Yes.
One quick one. I know Jenny and I had to leave that meeting with HRG, the overview of the green spaces for the master plan. Was there a follow-up?
We have not had a follow-up yet with that.
All right. Well, we'll wait to hear from you on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Public Works, another point of interest, we're doing the crosswalks throughout town, painting them. I think it's been probably 3 years since they've been painted last. And we also are getting the piano keys on Main Street. I don't know when they plan on starting that, but look for that in the future. That was one of the recommendations for the Main Street study for pedestrian safety that was recommended to us. And of course, you know, we'd like to follow any kind of recommendations for that. So that'll be starting here soon also. Electric department tested all polyphase meters for our commercial customers, all CTs, PTs, and wiring. That's the first time we've done that since I've been around. And only found maybe 5 or 6 minor issues. All meters were within the percentage of accuracy. All CTs, PTs were within the percentage of accuracy. So really surprised me. I thought we were going to find a bunch of major stuff, and you know it was going to be beneficial, you know, as far as recouping. But really, we didn't, and that's good for both sides too. So it gives our customers a little sense that you know you're being billed exactly what you're using. So the last thing I have is, and I don't know if you want to just talk about this, if we want to talk about it in another meeting when people were here, but I was approached again about the site distance study on Ann and Catherine. And, again, you know, we put it on the computer if anybody wants to see it on the screen. I looked it over. I really don't think, I heard some estimates of up to 10 spaces, but I think people are looking at it as it's 147 feet that they're cutting back, and that's not the truth of the distance for parking on Ann Street. It's 60, 80, 55, and 90 is the big one. So, again, this was a study by HRG, recommended by a councilman. He had a couple complaints. We had HRG do the study, and part of the recommendation is that it is going to take up some parking spots. I don't believe it's going to take 10. If you look at the thing, you're probably going to lose 5. So, and I haven't been down there, and I know they have painted the curbs before longer in certain areas, but they did it without true studies. So your normal paint is like 25 feet for the approach, you know, on opposite sides of stop signs. And on Main Street, you can tell that they went along in certain distances. They put them at 50 feet or 60 feet. And some might be recorded in our ordinances. I do want to go over them. But Ann Street, I did not see. So, I mean, if anybody has any questions on it. That's why I said it looks as though off of this, without going and measuring, I would have to go down and see what they have right now as far as painted lines. But off of this, where the parking is now, it looks like 5.
5 cars.
Yeah.
I live on Ann Street. There's not enough parking down there now. People live in the apartments. You know, half the time I park down in the church parking lot. If you take 5 away, it's all those apartments there. They're going to be fighting for parking space.
Right there's the study. So you see the black dots, A, B, A, B. That's the recommended. There are cars behind there. That one, what is it? 1, 2, and it looks like 2 would be taken off on that far
Here
side.
to here, there to there,
Yeah.
there to there, there to there.
Yeah, really, that B on the left side, that 90-foot, that's probably the bad one. That's where people have trouble seeing up
Yes.
Ann Street.
Instead of
Correct, but this is a street that's a major thoroughfare where there's no stops anywhere along there other than the red light. So this is not coming from me. This was a study that was done, and it's according to the traffic standards. And you can either follow it or you can disregard it. And if you disregard it, there's ramifications if there's ever an accident. So,
Mr. Wilsbach, is there, instead of taking parking away from a very hard to find spot area, what about traffic light at that intersection? Where you're physically just stopping cars?
I don't think there's a traffic light recommendation for the intersection up above there.
Well, I think
I believe if there was a study done, that traffic light would be removed according to today's standards.
let's get with,
At Mansberger, I really do, because it's a 25-mile-an-hour road, and today's standards, there would just be a 2-way stop sign off of Wood Street.
no, we can always be overachievers and go above and beyond.
Well, you can't.
I agree,
That's a
but they
state-
would not.
well, you
can't.
They wouldn't put a
That's a
stop.
state
They
road.
wouldn't put a red light that close to another red light.
Yeah.
So if you take that red light and move it down to here, you're just moving a problem up there. Then.
Yeah, and there are kind of legal warrant, like if they look at, when we were looking at the 4-way stop, you're not supposed to use a stop just because of certain things like site that, you're supposed to, deal with the.
Well, if this is a state road, then let PennDOT deal with it. If they want to come in and paint the curbs, let them come in and paint the curbs.
That's
Parking is a local municipality issue.
Yeah, I mean, you're
yeah.
dealing with
You're parking.
It's a
PennDOT
state
doesn't
road
deal with-
here, it's a state road on this hand,
But
it's not a
it's,
state
but
road
the
on
side
this
streets
hand. I
are,
mean,
Well, you're still gonna have
Middletown, and
responsibility if you
unfortunately,
get somebody
that's
killed.
the issue, is on the side street, not the main road.
Legally, though, to Ian's point, legally, would we get out of the legal aspect of it if we put it back on Catherine Street, didn't do anything on Ann? Would that alleviate?
What do you mean, put back on Catherine Street?
Extend extended on Catherine.
That's not where your parking issue
Yeah,
is.
your problem
Well,
Your
is
site,
on
dis-
in.
that's not where your site
Right,
distance
but I mean, to
problem is.
Ian's point, I agree with Ian, the state, let them come down here and do it. So if we just did what the study says on Catherine, would that alleviate us from any legal ramifications? That
This-
you're,
My argument is, can we throw signs all along this road that says slow without going to PennDOT and asking them?
No.
No. So, then why paint the curb?
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, so let us do our due diligence on Catherine.
I mean, if it's a state road on this hand, oh, we can't put a sign up there, slow down, pedestrian, speed limit, because it's a state road, and we can't put a traffic light up because it's a state road, then why touch the curb? It's a state road.
Because it's
Well, you're not even supposed to do it
It's a
on
site distance parking issue, which is
local
borough
roads if
issue.
you're-
Yeah, but they're
Don't have
parking,
How's
they're
it a borough issue?
parking on a
To
state
Ian's
road.
point, though, how's it a borough issue?
They're
If
not
it's a
parking on
state
our
road.
road. They're parking on a state road.
Correct.
So let the,
But the site distance problem is why you're on the borough, why you're on a borough road looking at the state.
Well, can we alleviate the problem on Catherine Street, and then that does the borough?
There's no recommendation for Catherine.
Yeah, there's no problem with the
I
site
thought it
distance
says
on
right there,
Catherine.
60 foot.
No,
back.
that's all on Ann Street.
Oh, well then how do we have any do we have legal responsibility if we don't follow through with that?
Yeah, PennDOT
Yeah.
won't do this.
Yeah, you've got to determine the parking there, but if, I mean, you have a site distance, you have a site distance.
And again,
Now,
this
to
wasn't my
Ian's point, though,
recommendation.
how
we
do
couldn't even put a no parking sign on that road without, if we wanted to, because we got to talk to,
Then how do we have legal responsibility if we can't do that?
can we put a no parking sign up there tomorrow? And not make a phone call to anybody?
I believe so for no parking, yeah.
Yeah, for parking.
Yeah, I think it's parking, you can't put a speed limit or
You can't change speed
stop
limit
signs
signs
or
or anything like that, but no parking.
red lights.
You're allowed to, as long
Parking.
as it meets the
Parking.
minimum distance and the setback,
Yeah,
and it's a breakaway pole and so forth, you're allowed to put your
yeah.
sign.
A traffic light though, they're gonna. you're gonna
Yeah,
have
a
to
traffic
prove it.
light's a major study,
Yeah,
and
you
and
need
really, I don't,
engineering
Ian, I don't see a
warrants.
traffic light being approved for that
Put a
intersection.
sign there that says M&H Railroad this way?
I'll put a sign wherever you want me to put a sign. I know it's a can of worms, and I didn't want to bring it up, but we can't also ignore the fact that we recognized an issue, and this was the recommendation again. So either
I think we need to get some more counselors at the table.
that's fine.
Let's table this until we,
I figured it.
have some more input from our teammates.
It's only gonna get worse when the campus starts to back up.
Agreed.
Goes right up the street. There's 5 apartments that are empty, and there are 2 vehicles per apartment, so the parking is gonna push its way that way. So why take the parking away? We just don't have it.
There's a solution to that back on Wilson Street.
Just because somebody can't see around the corner.
What do you mean, Scott?
Restricted parking.
Yep. Well,
Where
I'd
at?
say we discussed it back there.
Where at?
He wants to discuss property and executive session.
No. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Property.
Well,
For
Real
parking
estate,
area? Okay.
no, but
Yeah, no,
thank
it's
you
not
for
on the
bringing it,
agenda, so it's not.
thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yes.
We need to table it until we can have more discussion.
And as far as action items, the only item I have is, to approve resolution authorizing Middletown Borough to enter into a pole attachment agreement with DQE Communications for fiber optic running speed. So that'll be at the meeting. We'll have a resolution.
I thought it might be important to mention that we're preparing to place an order for a number of expensive transformers for the Woodland Hills development. We provide the transformers for major developments, so you'll see costs have risen drastically in the supply side of electric things. I'm sure Ian knows that very well. So you'll see a large bill come through at some point for those, so
If you can even
And
get them, what's your
I
lead time?
can't, they're
25 weeks.
25 weeks, and it's the only company that will do that. Every other company that we deal with, half the vendors will not take, or allowed to take orders, except for their big customers like PPL or Med Ed, and they're a year out. they're not even allowed to take orders.
How many,
from us.
like-
It's a minimum, a year out for every transformer company, but this one.
How many like buckets do we have? Like your standard? Was
600, I think, 600, no, 400 transformers.
No, I mean just like your bucket transformers. Or how many do we have in stock?
In the pole? Pole mount transformer?
Yeah, pull mount bucket transformer.
I couldn't. We try to keep a hefty stock, and I know years ago,
We should probably order
someone
some.
got rid of a bunch.
Probably order some.
When I wasn't here, so, previous council thought our stock was too high, and, yeah. I have been.
Yeah.
Every chance I get, I'm getting transformers, because quite frankly, there's companies out there that are gonna be, electric companies that are gonna be in big trouble. They don't have spares right now. And because before you could get it in a couple weeks for jobs and stuff. Now that's no longer the case. So I'm not giving any up. If anybody needs one, I gotta keep our spares. And I have enough spares for, to cover the ones that we have out in the fields. So knock on wood, we don't get more than 2 or 3 bad in a year, because they get ordered right away.
Well, I mean, even you could have a brand new one up there and gets hit in a car accident and falls. You know what I mean?
We put a brand new one up 3 weeks ago, and it faulted because the winding in it was shorted out from freight. So, yeah,
It happens.
absolutely. So anyways, as to Ken's thing, you're gonna see this, we're trying to be proactive and stay on top that we have our material available for the last remaining phases for Woodland Hills. And that includes a wire order that's coming up too.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's all, yeah.
Agenda item number 11, the joint venture Viola. Are they gracing us with their presence tonight? Oh yeah, they're just drinking the water. Agenda item number 12. Does council members have anything
No.
they want to talk about?
I have something.
Go ahead.
Just a reminder, tomorrow night is the last movie night for the summer,
Oh yeah.
and it's at Hopper Park. It starts around 6 o'clock for the public
Excellent. Good. Thank you. And that's with Mara, correct?
with Mara.
What do you know? What movie they're showing?
Sing 2.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Carter loves that movie. Watched it 1,000 times. Literally. I received a letter today from Councilor Strom, a letter of resignation. Sorry to hear that. We'd have to amend the agenda, but do we have
We
a,
could just wait till next time.
you want to wait?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Sir, I would like to amend the agenda.
To act on this?
I just feel, we have about 2 million things within the borough. We need to act as soon as we can.
Now realize once you accept it,
The 30-day clock
you have 30
starts ticking.
days to fill it.
So by
So-
waiting 2 weeks, we have a little more breathing room.
It's up
It's
to
up
the
to you.
body.
I'm just saying,
It's
be
up to the body.
cognizant of the resignation becomes effective upon the acceptance, or if it's not accepted, you have 45 days to accept it. If it's not acted on in 45 days, it's deemed accepted on the 45th day, and you have 30 days to act on that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the motion to amend the agenda, include the resignation.
You have a motion?
Right, have a motion for a second. I guess seeing no second, the motion fails.
Put it on the agenda for the next
Mhm.
business meeting.
Does any council have anything else? Okay. At this time, do I have a general public comment?
I don't know what that 14 foot is.
I think the M&H Railroad fits the definition of a tourist attraction. Past practice. There's a fence in Overdale Park. Do you know why that fence is here? Because those people had dogs in their yards, and the borough put a fence up for them. Should I repeat that?
I heard the borough put a fence up.
Okay.
Which fence? There's two of them there.
The one next
The
to
white
the house, the one next to the house where the dogs were.
Sheep fence.
No.
There's two fences. There's a chain link fence and the PVC fence.
All right. Thank you.
Did the borough install any of those fences?
Yes.
The PVC fence.
The borough install?
Yes.
Privacy fence. That was to make the park appearance look better. I don't think it was for dogs.
Okay. I don't know. I really don't know about anything about it.
Sure.
And that's a sin if it was for the dogs. Because why don't they put up a fence at my house because of dogs?
Well, I'm just assuming.
I mean, we can't get in the practice of doing that. If that was done for that reason.
Well, I think maybe they were afraid that some child would go over to the fence with them where the dogs are. That's my personal.
And then we should contact the police because the woman does not manage it properly effectively.
Well, I'm just explaining you bought a fence once, so.
If we buy a fence for anyone else, I want one at my house.
Well, I mean, the borough has an ordinance that
I do.
you have to put a fence up around your pool because it's an ordinance. We're scared that, somebody may get in the pool, but we're not in the practice of paying and installing for people to install pools. Oh, well, come out, what color fence you want? How high do you want it?
Yeah.
You go bankrupt.
What you do have to protect your citizens is the problem. When you have a park, well, just like your pool, you have to protect the people at the pool down here, or,
Well, I want a new fence. I want a new fence.
I'll give you another example, you got electrical substation down here, you have a fence around it to protect the public from getting in there.
Well, that's our property. That's a borough substation property.
At this rate, we ought to have a fence around every roadway. We ought to have arms that go up and down.
The Borough Historical Restoration Commission. Why don't you change the ordinance to make it 5 people instead of 7?
If the body brings that before us and they request that, we can definitely entertain it.
Thank you.
Any other general public comment?
My name is Wendell Dillinger. I'm president of the M&H. This is actually a little bit more on the M&H. Because it was mentioned that we are a business. We are a business, but our tourist operation is pretty much a labor of love. Our train crews are volunteers. We only use a paid employee for our passenger operation when we have no volunteer. I've been a full-time volunteer for 22 years now. I've been off the payroll for 22 years. But our passengers are coming from all over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland. That's where most of our people come from. Before we had our temporary signs, people were calling us from Highspire all over the place, trying to figure out how to find us. We ended up having to run our trains 15 minutes or so late all the time for people to find us. That's why we put up those sandwich board signs, so people could find us. Because people would get lost, they say, why don't you have a sign so we can find your place? So it's not local people we're trying to tell how to find us in Middletown. We've directed them to come down Vine Street, but once they get to Main Street, they have no idea what to do. And trying to find us without any instructions is pretty tough. So
I have a question. For parking, we can put signs up for parking? Right, like on a public or state road?
The zoning ordinance deals with all signs in the borough. And it tells you which signs are prohibited and which ones are permitted and what restrictions and permits are needed for signing. And for business signs, the zoning ordinance does not allow business signs off-site of the business property. The zoning ordinance only deals with signs going up on the business property. Signs in a public right-of-way are not required, are not allowed on a PennDOT roadway. Signs that are put up have to meet certain restrictions. That sandwich board sign itself.
No, I'm talking like a parking, like on the,
Governmental regulatory signs aren't under the zoning ordinance, if that's what you're asking.
Governmental,
Regulatory signs like stop signs are not zoning, he's asking.
they're not in the zoning
Yes.
ordinance. All other business signs, election signs, temporary signs are all in the zoning ordinance.
no, when we were talking about Ann Street, like, we were talking about, we could put a no parking sign on Ann Street because it had to do with parking in the public right of way.
They're traffic regulating signs, no parking.
So my question is, in the train station parking lot, could we put parking, M&H Railroad parking this way?
I don't think they are traffic regulating signs. I don't know, you'd have to ask Mr. Diamond.
Because if they have customers going to the new train station and we put a sign that says M&H Railroad parking this way.
I will tell you this, we had recently at least one other business in town who's putting up temporary signs in public roadways that we also had to remove because it's a zoning violation. We get in a situation where everybody has a problem that somebody can't find something. You're going to have signs all over the public roadways that are blowing around, that aren't fastened properly. In fact, the M&H sandwich board sign, I realize it's been there many years, but I received complaints about sight distance there that people couldn't see over the sandwich board in a small car. And we had somebody check that, and signs, if they are allowed, signs in a business sign, like if J&J's wanted to put sign out, it can't be higher than 36 inches. If they wanted to put something out, they'd have to get a permit for it on their site. But this sign violated not only the size, the site restriction, but also it was not on the business property.
Well, you can see how J&J's, they have a sign, but it's you can tell it's pushed far back and then it cantilevers over, probably for that site distance.
Right.
That site distance.
And I just want to mention one other thing. At one point, before your time, I imagine, the borough put a ramp up from the park up to our track for people going to Pineford, because it's a lot shorter for people from the park to go to Pineford, crossing our track down by Univar, rather than to go to Race Street. And so the borough finally took that ramp down when we showed them a court case where it was a multi-million-dollar lawsuit regarding a similar situation on another railroad, CSX, at a park. The same thing, the official entrance was one end of the park and the shortcut was at the other end of the park. So that's the favorite shortcut to that part of town, to Pineford and that part of town, is to cross the track there rather than walking down a Race Street. So that's why we need something, whether it's a signage, fence, something, so people know that's not an official shortcut to that part of town. So, anyway.
Mr. Dillinger, do you have an address there that you post that when you give people directions that they can find through Google Maps or, their phone map quest? Do you have an address that you give them? An address.
What's your address when you on the internet?
What's our address on the
He's
internet?
asking, yes.
mhrailroad.com.
No, your physical address.
136 Brown Street, Middletown.
So when people come, that's where they go first to get a train ticket, 136 Brown Street.
Right,
And that's what they're having trouble finding.
right.
What I think it is, they just think Middletown train station is when I've had to go track people down like, we call them if they don't make it to the train in time, like, you know, where are you at, you local? I'm over here at the train station, like, what'd you put in your GPS, just curious? I put Middletown train station. For some reason, they don't wanna read.
You don't want to put 136
Yeah, they
branch.
don't put the address in, they just wanna put Middletown train station in. I said, you know, this day and age of the phones, you think that you would put the address for
Mhm.
Middletown, all those things. I know it does come up. I mean, that's how I ended up here.
Yeah.
And, but for some reason, they all wanna do, well, not all, but we have frequent problems with them
Mhm.
putting in Middletown train station. Now, this season's been a little slow, COVID didn't help. So I don't know how it's happening with the new station, but when they were still over here constantly, I'm like, blink your lights. And I could see them over in the Amtrak station. And I would have to run over and say, you gotta follow me, there's the wrong train station.
Thank you.
No, thank you. We're gonna discuss it more, and we'll figure something creative.
Thank you.
Any other general public comment?
Just if you don't mind, Mr. Wendell here. I was actively working with the borough, the ramp that he was talking about. We did build that, stuck it there. Shortly thereafter, the ramp came down and we installed that section of, and I'm saying it was 12 foot of 6 foot high chain link fence. It was up for 1 year and that got destroyed.
Thank you for the historical knowledge of that. Any other general public comment? Seeing all, do I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? We will not be returning. We'll be talking about potential litigation, personnel, and real estate.
So moved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.